And so people, I think, are trying to pit Tuchel and Jude Bellingham against each other, when in fact what this probably is, for my money anyway, is two elite people in their fields, a player and a manager, just saying what they think. And in English sport and English culture, we're not quite used to that. We're used to people tangling themselves in knots, trying to be incredibly polite. But Jude Bellingham and Thomas Tuchel say it how they see it. And they happen to see it differently. Jude Bellingham then later, in another question, said, well, Tuchel's clearly never played in conditions quite as hot and demanding as this. And people seem to think they now hate each other and there's going to be an implosion of the environment at England. I don't think that's the case.
Your workmates won't stop banging on about England reaching the semi-finals and you still don't really know how to speak to them about it, then fear not, for we are still running what I believe we are legally required to call our water cooler guide for bluffers to the World Cup with talkSPORT's Max Scott. Hello, Max.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. So look, let's start off. I'm confused. It's a good thing that England reached the semi-finals, but am I right in thinking the manager is still quite cross and thinks all his players are a bit rubbish?
No.
Okay.
Look, at the end of the game, energy and adrenaline still pumping. Thomas Tuchel has a microphone shoved in front of his mouth and is asked essentially, how great it is that England are through to the semi-final of the World Cup. He says it's fantastic, but I think my team can play better. We're talking about... He
was quite grumpy.
He was, but I think he was only grumpy when the reporter asked a question about that and said, well, is the reason that you're not happy with the performance because of the mentality? And Tuchel says, no, quite the opposite. The mentality, you could bottle that up and sell it. It's an elite mentality, but I thought we were slow, we were sluggish, and we could play better. Approximately 90 seconds later, the same reporter goes to Jude Bellingham, who's just scored 2 goals, back-to-back braces. Actually, this is an interesting fact for your friends down the pub. The first player since Diego Maradona to score back-to-back braces in a World Cup knockout games. So
and he did them with his feet.
Well, quite.
Yeah.
He did it properly. Yeah. Great point. You're learning well.
Thank you.
The reporter asks Jude Bellingham about what it's like to score in a semi-final, the great performances from players off the bench, some of the more inexperienced players that have never played at a World Cup, and his 6th question, and this is important now because lots of the commentary on social media is the first question the reporter asks is this. He says, Thomas Tuchel wasn't actually very happy with the performance, and Jude Bellingham says, whatever. We've won the game.
Yeah.
And so people, I think, are trying to pit Tuchel and Jude Bellingham against each other, when in fact what this probably is, for my money anyway, is two elite people in their fields, a player and a manager, just saying what they think. And in English sport and English culture, we're not quite used to that. We're used to people tangling themselves in knots, trying to be incredibly polite. But Jude Bellingham and Thomas Tuchel say it how they see it. And they happen to see it differently. Jude Bellingham then later, in another question, said, well, Tuchel's clearly never played in conditions quite as hot and demanding as this. And people seem to think they now hate each other and there's going to be an implosion of the environment at England. I don't think that's the case. I think it's a stormy teacup.
Well, that's the line I shall stick to in that case. Catch me up on what happened with the ball hitting the cable after that gold kick, if indeed it did.
The wire of God, it's been called, because, of course, the spider cam, which sits above the pitch and is attached to a load of wires, and it can follow the game, it can, get right into the pitch, it can go incredibly high and give it a beautiful aerial view. The Norwegian keeper, just before half-time, England, the 1-0 down, clears the ball. It clearly hits the wire of the spider cam.
It clearly doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And diverts right into the feet of Elliot Anderson, who is known as the Geordie Maradona, who takes the ball down beautifully, charges forward, plays a through ball to Anthony Gordon, who plays it to Jude Bellingham. The rest is history. Now, FIFA are trying to pull the rug over everybody's eyes and say, well, this football is the most technically advanced football. It's got however many microchips in it, and it didn't spot any interference, not like the interference we saw from the White House in following Balogun's red card. So they're trying to tell people it didn't happen. VAR didn't check it, and I think that's because the Norwegians, who are incredibly humble, didn't make a big deal of it. The reality is England's first goal should not have happened.
Really?
And England should have gone in at half-time 1-0 down, and then the complexion of the game completely changes. But maybe, just maybe, the footballing gods are smiling on England during this World Cup, because that goal really changed the momentum of the game.
Is this anything to do with like American stadiums being built fundamentally for other sports? I mean, because one doesn't hear you wonder why this kind of thing doesn't happen all the time.
It's a great point. I wouldn't say so, Hugo, because, for example, NFL, it was an NFL stadium, an American football football stadium where they certainly kick the ball higher than a football. And that does occasionally happen in NFL. I guess the difference is football is a much more fluid game. NFL stops every 5 seconds, and so it doesn't really matter, and a big deal's not necessarily made of it. So England incredibly lucky, in that regard. We, as English men and women, we have to acknowledge that goal shouldn't have stood, but thankfully it did.
Right, okay, big of you. Okay, so look, it's Argentina next. What do I need to learn about them?
Well, what you need to say is Argentina have been incredibly lucky so far. If England have played poorly and got through on moments, more so Argentina. They've played incredibly easy teams and on paper and struggled against them. It took them extra time to beat Cape Verde. It took them extra time against to beat 10-man Switzerland, and they probably should have lost to Egypt if it wasn't for a favourable refereeing decision. So they're beatable is the point.
Okay, Lionel Messi, he's getting on a bit, isn't he?
He is getting on a bit, but he's aging much better than Cristiano Ronaldo, who stank the place out for Portugal and is probably the reason they didn't go further in this tournament, because at the age of 41 he's not the player that he is, but such is the control and power he has over Portuguese football, the manager was afraid to drop him and the players afraid to challenge him. Messi's totally different. It all revolves around Messi, and rightly so, because he's still got magic in those boots. Messi's never played against England in his entire career. This will be the first time on the biggest stage. The first time that they've played each other since 2005. Obviously a huge rivalry for political reasons, for footballing reasons, the hand of God, etc. Messi's still the main man.
I was watching The Hand of God. I'm not in Mexico, obviously, but on the telly. Nine years old.
Not a beatific vision. Just,
well, of course, yeah.
Yes, Maradona's hand.
So, look, what are my three sort of my takeaway water cooler quotes then about the Argentina match? What do I want to say if I'm bluffing? About what's Argentina? They've been lucky so far.
Argentina have been lucky so far.
Yeah.
You say their midfield, they haven't got any legs.
Right.
They've got very little pace in the midfield. England do. That should be where the midfield battle is won.
Haven't got any legs. I like that.
However, at the age of 38, Lionel Messi can still exploit an already weakened England defence.
That's excellent. Excellent work. Look, finally, Max, Jude Bellingham, we were talking about. He's, of course, England's superstar at the moment. The manager who gave him his senior debut aged 16 at Birmingham City, Pep Clotet, told Times Radio Breakfast he could see Jude's potential even then.
You could always see that he has the talent. You could always see he was only 16, and you could definitely see it. But especially what I think is that he had the drive, the mentality, the psychology to become a very top player.
Is that normal, Max? That like players who turn out to be great, so you can see they're great when they're 16?
It does when they're in a totally different stratosphere, like Lionel Messi. It would be strange to compare them because they play in totally different positions and they're totally different players. But if you wanted to start a debate and a conversation about the greatness of Jude Bellingham in the pub, you could say he's the best English player, or the best player to be produced by England since Sir Bobby Moore, of course, the World Cup winning captain. He is that good.
Right, okay. I wish I was writing all this down. I'm gonna have to listen back. Max Scott, thank you very much indeed. Max will talk sport, and we will speak later in the week, I am sure.